What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Canadian Football Fantasy Fix for Week 7 of the 2021 CFL season. Yes, week number 7 is here, a brand new week of CFL Fantasy, and lots of exciting options to choose from. I'm Ryan Coop here talking about the quarterbacks for this week today. I'll have running back, wide receiver, and defensive previews out this week for you as usual as well. But let's take a look at the quarterbacks for week number 7. There's a couple options I like. There's a few I'm cautious on, and there's a couple I'm staying away from, as per usual. But this week in particular, I find I'm having a hard time finding quarterback options I really like. I think there's a lot of them that are just not going to get you the value you need. But the two I really like, and the one I really like the most, is Michael Riley of the BC Lions. He comes in at $10,603 to get you enough value for his price point to get to that, get you to the 100-point mark. You need 26.5 points from him. That's what those columns mean. 2.5 points per $1,000. You can see what the 2 times, the 1.5, etc. marks are there as well. I like Riley because he's a guy who just this past week put up 29.5 points, got you the full value. 2 weeks before that, he put up 24 against the Red Blacks as well. Granted, those two are both against Ottawa, and so take that with a bit of a grain of salt because the Red Blacks are not the best football team this year. But I think Riley is a great option because he loves to pass the ball. That is a very pass-heavy offense. They don't run the ball a lot. They don't give it to Shaq Cooper a whole time. Riley also has the ability to get you a rushing touchdown to punch it in near the goal line. He's going to go do that himself. Nathan Rourke's not going to come in and get that. He's been averaging 19.7 points on the year. Montreal's defense against quarterbacks so far, giving up an average of 17.2. I think 26.5 might be a little bit high this week, but we also saw Dom Davis have a pretty good day against the Alouettes 2 weeks ago. So I think there's room for Riley to have himself a big week, and I would project him to at least get you in that 2 points per $1,000 range, get you around that 21 points or at least close to it. And I can see him having another big day of putting up the big point total, which you'll need if you want to pay a big salary for Michael Riley. The other option I really like at quarterback this week is David Watford of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Dane Evans went down in that game against Toronto this past weekend and will be missing the next 4 to 6 weeks. Jeremiah Mazzoli, I know, has been back practicing as well after being on the injured list for a couple of weeks, but so far this week, it sounds like David Watford's been taking most of the reps with the first-team offense, which they haven't officially announced a starter. But if he is the starter, I like him as a pick because he has that cheap price point. $6,000, all you need is 15 points out of him. He didn't do a whole lot, granted, in the time he played after coming in for Dane Evans, but he did get a little bit of usage there in that fourth quarter. Made some passes that helped the Ticats get things back to close to tying the game if they wouldn't have missed the convert. So I like Watford because you don't need a high ceiling to get value from him. He also faces a Calgary defense that's giving up one of the worst totals to quarterbacks in the league, 19.7 points against from quarterbacks so far this year. So there's room to pass against the Stampeders. Especially, they got eaten alive by Edmonton on the corners a couple weeks ago. So I like at a cheap salary when I'm cautious on a lot of the larger options. I like David Watford to hopefully get you close to, if not getting you the full value at quarterback at $6,000. Among the players I see starting at the quarterback position this week, the ones I have in the yellow light category, it's Vernon Adams Jr., first of all, of the Montreal Alouettes. $12,766 is his salary. He's coming off the bye week. Before the bye, he put up a very good day of 31 points against the Ottawa Red Blacks. But he is facing a BC defense that has given up one of the lowest totals besides Winnipeg to quarterbacks so far this year. So just 12 points on average quarterbacks are scoring against the Lions. Look, I think Vernon Adams Jr. is a very talented quarterback. I think he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league. And if he can get back on his game like he did in that Week 5 matchup with the Red Blacks, then the sky's the limit for him. But he is now the highest priced quarterback option in the game, and I'm not so sure he hits 32 points against a BC defense that has been shutting the quarterbacks down pretty well. Also cautious on Nick Arbuckle coming in at $9,000. He needs 22.5 fantasy points to get you your full value. He's been averaging 16 in his 3 starts. Bit of an up and down for Toronto in general. I mean, he put up 23 points against the Bombers in his first start, then just 8.8 against Hamilton, then 16.3. So the reason I have him in the cautious category, look, I think Arbuckle is a guy, especially if the Riders are missing some pieces on defense again this week, which it looks like they might be. I think Arbuckle's a guy that could have himself a nice passing day and get you up the point total. But Toronto's offense has been up and down consistency-wise so far this year, game in and game out. And last week seemed to be back in the better direction. So to me, that spells potentially a down week this week. So I would say cautious on Arbuckle. I also say cautious on Zach Collaros. He comes in at 84.90. 21.2 points is what you need. He's averaging 15.9. He put up 19.1 last week. Look, it's not out of the realm of possibility for Collaros to put that point total up for you either. I think 21.2 is very respectable for a starting quarterback, especially one that can get you a decent number of touchdown passes in a game. The problem is he hasn't thrown a 300-yard passing game once yet this year. And it seems to be Sean McGuire's taking all the touchdowns for this Bombers offense, with 5 of them being 1-yard runs the past couple of weeks. So Collaros hasn't been getting the point totals from that, which has been hurting his totals a little bit there. So I'm cautious on Collaros just from that standpoint. And they're also facing an Edmonton defense that has been pretty good against quarterbacks so far this year. And the starters I'm fully staying away from this week. Staying away from Cody Fajardo of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. $12,014 is his salary. He did leave the Banjo Bowl against the Bombers with being in concussion protocol. And so continue to monitor that. I know he was practicing with the number 1 offense today, which is a good sign that he's on track to potentially start again this week against the Argos. But you need 30 points from Fajardo at that point total. That Saskatchewan offense has just dried up in recent weeks. They looked explosive in the first game or two, but they didn't put up any touchdowns against the Bombers. I don't think Fajardo, I think you have to go back to week number 3 against Ottawa was the last time he picked up a touchdown, and they may have only, correct me if I'm wrong, I know there was some sort of stat about week 2 against Hamilton being the last time he, I think, threw a touchdown pass. I think he got a rushing touchdown against Ottawa in week 3. If that's wrong, don't quote me on that. But it is something like that. It's been over 2 games since he's put up a passing touchdown. You're not hitting 30 points unless you're putting a couple touchdowns on the board. So I say stay away from Fajardo. I also say stay away from Trevor Harris for much of the same reason of not putting touchdowns on the board. $11,035. The sky's the limit when he's on his game and when they're being efficient on offense. But he had 33.3 points against Calgary 2 weeks ago and followed that up with just 7.3 last week. His highest point total, besides that explosive outburst against Calgary in week 5, was 14.7. So not coming close to the value you need from Trevor Harris. And he faces a Winnipeg defense that's just not giving up points right now. The Bombers have given up 3 or 4 points only in the fourth quarter all season long through 6 games. And, they've held teams to under 10 points in 4 of those games. So I think Harris can throw for a lot of yards against the Bombers defense, but I really don't think he's putting up a lot of touchdowns and getting you the value you need. So I say stay away from Trevor Harris. I also say stay away from Bo Levi Mitchell, $9,900. First game back from injury last week, he put up 14.1 against Edmonton. he looked like he got his groove a little more as the game went along, but certainly at least it took him a while to get going. A lot of his passes were off the mark, and they weren't running too efficiently on offense. And they face a Hamilton team that is still giving up a decent point total to quarterbacks, but I think they're trending things a little more in the right direction of tightening that up a little bit. And with Bo's injury and not knowing, how well he truly is, if he is truly 100% after rushing back so quick from it, I say 24.8 is a lofty goal to get from Bo Levi Mitchell this week. I see him coming in somewhere around that 15-point range again, which I think is going to be a disappointment at that salary. And then taking a look at some of the potential backups or other options here as well. Like I said, Jeremiah Mazzoli is practicing this week, so he could slot back in the lineup. And I think if he's fully ready to go, he would be obviously the starter this week over David Watford. But if that happens, I'm saying stay away from Mazzoli. Look, I love Watford for that cheap price point of $6,000. At the price he's at and needing over 24 points from Mazzoli, I know he's facing a Calgary defense that gives up a lot of points to the pass, but in the games we've seen from Mazzoli this year, just an average of 9.9. He hasn't gotten anything going with that offense. That offensive line is still pretty shaky in Hamilton, and coming off the injury, I want to see how he performs first. So I say stay away from Mazzoli this week. A couple interesting backup options here. Isaac Harker, $6,000. If Fajardo's not ready to go, he, much like David Watford, I think is an interesting play this week if you're looking for a cheaper option. Again, you only need 15 points from him. He came in, played a little bit in that last game against the Bombers, put up 5 points there, and showed a bit of sparks maybe with that offense. So I'm excited to see if Isaac Harker can get a full start, if Fajardo's not ready to go. I'm excited to see what kind of performance he puts up. So I put him in the caution category just because we haven't seen a full game from him yet. And then finally, the most interesting, intriguing, risky play you could go for. And I'm not going to lie, this is one I strongly consider myself. And that's Sean McGuire of the Bombers. $5,000 for a backup quarterback. He's not going to get you the passing plays, most likely. He did have a 50-yard completion last week. But he, 2 weeks ago, got his first career touchdown and put up 2 touchdowns, 1-yard plunges against the Riders. Last week, he put up the hat trick, 3 touchdown rushes there. So, he's averaging in his 2 games where he's really been a factor. He's averaging 16.4 points, put up 20.5 last week. He's facing an Edmonton defense. I could see the Bombers, getting close to the goal line. And then it's McGuire territory, and it's clearly working for them, and I don't see why they wouldn't keep going that way, much like they did with Chris Streveler last year. So, look, it's a risky play. It's one of the most risky you can. If he's only getting 1 rushing touchdown, he's putting up 6 points for you. That's half the value you need. That's a disappointing day. If you think he can put up 2, though, for you, then you're getting close to that value. Look, I don't recommend it. I think it's a bit of a stretch, especially if we have one of those other cheaper value plays in Watford or Harker potentially starting. But I could see some people taking a chance on McGuire, especially if you're just looking to punt it at the quarterback position. Take some points for the cheapest salary you can. Then maybe that's the pick you go with in Sean McGuire at the quarterback position. So those are the options at quarterback for week number 7. Again, not a ton I love. I do like Michael Riley. I do like David Watford if he gets the start. And cautious on guys like Vernon Adams Jr., Nick Arbuckle, Zach Collaros, Isaac Harker, and Sean McGuire. And fully staying away from Cody Fajardo, Trevor Harris, Bo Levi Mitchell, and Jeremiah Mazzoli this week. Stay tuned. It should be out Wednesday. I'll have the running back preview. Thursday, I'll have wide receivers and defense coming out as well. Then Friday, I'll have your depth chart update. Do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't. If you have any fantasy questions, put them in the comments section. Tweet them at me at CooperTrooper42 as well. And if you want to play CFL Fantasy alongside myself and other viewers, go check out in the description. I've got a link to the Canadian Football Fantasy Fix League on the official CFL Fantasy site, so you can play alongside myself and others there. As always, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.